thank you once again, everyone, for joining us today. So my name is Sean, and I will be the host of the webinar for today. And with me is Zach, who will be co-host. And like I mentioned, any questions along the way, please feel free to post them in the Q&A box, and Zach will be answering those as we go along. So welcome, everyone. Today's webinar will be the advanced version of the Club Executives training on the club. So just some items that we will be covering. We're going to go over setting up and managing the RI integration settings. We're going to review the member and club archive. We're going to go over using the compare and synchronize page, as well as the executive compare and synchronize page. And we're going to take a look at the integrated fields in the club information. So I'm going to switch over here, and I am logged into our test account. Now, before we dive in here, I do want to note that this is a test account on our development environment. So any of the information that you see during the webinar is all test data. It's not real data related to people. So just keep that in mind, that this is all test data that you'll see throughout this webinar. So first item, excuse me, first item that we will talk about is, of course, RI integration. So at a high level, RI integration allows the club to integrate Club Runner with Rotary International. And in order to do that, there is some steps that need to be taken in order to set that up. And we're going to take a look at that first. So on our knowledge base, so it's clubrunnersupport.com, we have an article that's called "How do I set up automatic integration with Rotary International?" And this outlines all of the steps required in order to get that set up. So if we scroll down here, there are steps that you need to take through Rotary first, and then in Club Runner. So we're going to quickly go over those. The first important note is that the process that needs to be taken, or the steps that need to be taken through Rotary, can only be done by the club's president, secretary, or executive secretary. So if you are looking at setting up the automatic integration with Rotary International, please keep that in mind, that this setup process can only be done by the president, secretary, or executive secretary. One other thing that I do want to make a note of is that the setting up process needs to be completed once, does not need to be done every year. So once you have it set up, you should be good to go. We do recommend taking a look, as the new year approaches, just take a look and make sure that it is set up and enabled, and we'll show you how to do that here shortly. So first thing is we need to set up the vendor through My Rotary. So on this article, if we scroll down to the bottom, we actually have a PDF that was provided from Rotary with steps on how to actually process this. So let's go ahead and open that, and we'll quickly go over these steps. So again, this is through My Rotary. So first thing you want to do is head over to My Rotary, and you're going to log in. I'm going to select the home option on the menu and then click My Club. And in the My Club page, you should see there's a section that says Club Management Systems. So we're going to click Edit there. And then on the Edit Club Management System page, we're going to click Add Vendor. And on that Add Club Management Vendor page, we have a few options here. So first option is the vendor that you want to set. So in this case, it will be Club Runner. And the second set of options here is the vendor access level. So when you are setting up the integration, it's important to note that there are two integration types. So the first one that's outlined here is the view and edit access. And then the second one is the view only access. So the difference between those is that the view and edit access allows Club Runner to not only view or read the data that Rotary International has, but it also allows Club Runner to edit that information. So for example, if a member was added into Club Runner and the view and edit access was set up, the system will try to synchronize that up to Rotary International and make the change there automatically as well. One thing to note with the view and edit access is that the automatic integration, so automatic integration based on the change, only happens from Club Runner up to Rotary International. So if a change is made in Club Runner, the system will try to synchronize that up to Rotary International. But if a change is made directly through Rotary International, we can use one of the tools that we will be showing later on in this webinar to pull the information down to Club Runner. That's not automatic. So do keep that in mind. Automatic is from Club Runner up to Rotary International, but if a change is made directly into Rotary International, we can still use the compare and synchronize tool to pull that information down to Club Runner. And the other access option here is view only. So that just allows Club Runner to view the data that Rotary International has. So we can view what Rotary has, and we can pull that information down to Club Runner, again, using the compare and synchronize, which we will take a look at. But we cannot make any changes to Rotary International. So if we add a member in Club Runner with the view only access, it will not synchronize that change up to Rotary International and make the change there. So just keep that in mind. Depends on how the club wants to set it up, but there are the two vendor access levels that you can choose from. And then once you do choose that and you set the vendor, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page there, you'll see there's a certification checkbox. You just check that and then click the I agree button, and then that should be good to go. So that's the steps that you need to take through My Rotary. Once that is done, let's just go back into the member area. And there is one step that you need to take in Club Runner in order to actually enable that. So on the light blue menu bar near the top here, we're going to go ahead and locate RI integration. And then on the menu bar directly below, we're going to click RI integration settings. And when you're on this page, what we see now is there's this yellow box in the middle that has this checkbox that's actually not checked yet. So this means that we've followed the steps that we just covered through My Rotary. Club Runner is set up as the vendor, but we haven't actually enabled it in Club Runner. So this is the final step. So as I mentioned earlier, with the new year coming up, we definitely recommend coming into here and making sure that if you do have it set up, that it is enabled. So we'll go ahead and just enable it here by clicking this checkbox. Okay, and once that is done, you can see that it is enabled. And we also have this new section here that tells us that we have the read and update integration type. So we now can see that that is set up correctly, and it is now enabled in Club Runner. And like I said earlier, setting up the integration is not something you have to do every year. Just like this, you don't have to come into here and just enable it every year. It should remain enabled, but we do like to suggest that clubs with the new year go in and just make sure that those are set up correctly. So now that we have enabled that in Club Runner, let's scroll down and see the different options that we have available. And the first set of options are the integration privacy options. So what this will allow you to do is it will allow you on a club level to opt in or out of synchronizing specific information to Rotary International. So on top of, with the new year coming quickly, on top of coming onto this page and making sure that the integration is enabled and that it's the correct integration type that the club wants to use, we do also recommend reviewing the RI integration privacy settings here. Like I said, this is for the club level. So this is going to apply for the entire club. What we recommend is actually enabling all of the options. And what that'll do is it'll actually allow the member, because the members can go in and edit their privacy settings, and they can opt out of synchronizing specific information. So if we, for example, if we uncheck allow birthday, so we're saying that the club does not want to synchronize the allow birthday up to Rotary International. If me as a member, I go to my member profile and I want to synchronize my birthday up to Rotary International, we won't be able to because this is disabled at the club level. But if we have this enabled and a member wants to opt out of synchronizing their birthday, again, they can do the same thing. They can go into the member profile and they can opt out for their individual member records. So it is up to the club what information they want to synchronize up to Rotary International. But we do usually recommend just opting in for all of them and then allow the member to opt out of specific information if they don't want to synchronize that up to Rotary. And the last section that we have down at the bottom here is the RI integration notification contact. So with the RI integration system, sometimes there may be cases where a synchronization request failed for whatever reason. Maybe there was incorrect information or something like that. So in those cases where there was a change made in Club Runner and the system was not able to synchronize that up to Rotary International, we do send a notification email to the member that is selected as the RI notification contact. So you can set that here. You can set it by position, or you can set a specific member. So you can set that here. And of course, when you're done, you can click save. And I didn't mention it, but if you make changes to the privacy options, you can click the update privacy button. So this update privacy button will save the privacy options, and then the save button will save the integration notification contact. So now that we've enabled the integration and we've covered the basic settings that we have here, one thing I do quickly want to go over is just what information is synchronized up to Rotary International. So we do have this quick list here of things that we do integrate up to Rotary International. So there are a bunch of data points for the member. So things like first name, middle name, last name, birth date, things like that, as well as the address, phone numbers, email address, all of that member information is synchronized up to Rotary International. On top of member data, we do also synchronize club information as well. So things like meeting information, as well as a club email address and club contact information. And we also integrate membership updates. So that includes adding members and terminating members. And we also synchronize the club executives and officers as well. And we will take a look at all of those in this webinar. But I just wanted to quickly go over the items that we do synchronize up to Rotary International. I'm just going to hop back here into our member area. And we're going to scroll up. So first thing we are going to take a look at is adding a member. So on the light blue menu bar near the top, we're going to go ahead and click membership. And on the menu bar directly below, we're going to go ahead and click on member list. And on the right here, you'll see that we have two options. We have transfer new member and we have add new member. So I'm going to go ahead and click add new member. And we have our brand new add new member form. So we're going to go ahead and start filling this out. So let's just put May 1st. We're going to set the membership type to active. We're going to leave sponsor and Rotary member number alone. And the important part of this form here is actually this integration options. So we have the option to either report this new member up to Rotary International, which means the system will try to synchronize that up to Rotary, or we have the option to opt out of reporting this member up to Rotary International. So there may be some cases where you might not want to synchronize the member up to Rotary International. For example, if the member already exists at Rotary International, we don't need to go in and synchronize that back up to Rotary. But in that case, it would probably be better to use the compare and synchronize to pull that information down to Club Runner. But you do have that option here of either opting in or opting out of synchronizing the new member up to Rotary. So we're going to go ahead and let's just fill this out here. So we have all of our basic information as well as the address. And scroll down to the bottom here. So it automatically populates the username. So it's just first name dot last name. And then this is the club's club runner ID. And the temporary password as well is automatically generated here. And at the bottom, we do have an option to send an email notification to this member. For this case, we'll just go ahead and uncheck that. And we're going to go ahead and click add member.
So Sean, just before you move on, I want to add a quick note. So when Sean was clicking add member, we actually directly connect to the Rotary International database, and we actually try to check for other members who might match Rick Smith. However, specifically for our development environment, we are also connected to Rotary's development environment, and there are no users with anything resembling Rick or Smith with their first or last names, unfortunately. Otherwise, what would have more than likely happened, given that Rick and Smith is probably a pretty common name, is Sean actually would have gotten a pop-up and said, did you mean one of these users, or do you want to add it as a brand new user? So just to confirm, we do have some extra protection when adding new members to the club. We will search Rotary International and try and find matches. And yeah, we can also show off the transfer member page real quick if you wanted to, Sean.
Yes, yeah, we, excuse me.
Sorry,
Thanks,
and I'll return to my shadows until the end of the Q&A.
No, that's a great point. Thank you, Zach. A very important point as well. So yeah, we will take a look at the transfer so you can kind of see what the screens will look like. But since we are on the member profile, just really quickly here, if you edit these member details or the address information, that will the system will try to synchronize that up to Rotary International as well. Of course, if you have that read and update integration set up. But what I really want to talk about here on the member profile is the privacy tab. So if we go ahead and click on that, and we go ahead and click on the edit button on the right, like I mentioned earlier with the club privacy integration settings, I did mention that the individual member can actually opt in or out of synchronizing specific information, and this is where they can do it. So in the privacy tab, if you scroll down to RI integration privacy, the individual member can actually manage what information synchronizes up to Rotary International for their specific member profile. So they do have control over that. I'm just going to go ahead and click cancel for that. Okay, let's go back to member lists. And like Zach mentioned, we are going to take a quick look at the transfer new member. So again, on the right in blue here, we have the transfer new member button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And once we click on that, we do have a few search options. So we can search by Rotary ID, email, and name and country. So what this is going to do is this is going to search the Rotary database for a member using one of these search criterias. And it's going to try to find that member that you're trying to transfer. So I do have a member here that I want to find by Rotary ID. And again, this is all test information. So I'm going to go ahead and click search. And this is searching the Rotary database, like I said, and it did find a member with this particular Rotary ID, and that is Sean Roberts here. And we can actually see on this page that Sean Roberts is already a member of Tavistock, which is actually the test account that we're using here. So we can see they are a current member, and it does give us a warning that this member already has an active membership. So one thing that's really important to note that when you are transferring members, is that Rotary only allows a member to be active in one Rotary club at any given time. So when you are transferring a member, it is very important that the member is first terminated in their previous club and then added to the new club after that termination. So you have to make sure that the member is terminated from the previous club, and you have to make sure that the date joined the new club is after the date that the member was terminated from the past club. On this page, we do also have the option to add member directly. So what this will do is this will actually pre-populate the add member form that we just saw with the information that we pulled from Rotary International. So this member, like we saw on the page before it, they're already a member of this club, so we're not going to proceed with this, but just wanted to quickly show you the transfer member process and the screens that Zach was mentioning there. Let's go back to member list. And the next item we will quickly go over is the termination process. So let's go ahead and just find that record that we were looking at. So here it is, Rick Smith. This is the one we just added. So in order to terminate the member from the active member list, we can click Change Status. We're going to click the Terminate Membership button. You can set their termination date, so we'll leave that as today. You can set the reason for termination, so we'll just select none given. And at the bottom, just like when adding a new member, we have the option to report this termination to Rotary or to opt out of reporting this termination to Rotary International. So in this case, again, there may be a case where the member is already terminated at Rotary International. You just have to make that change in Club Runner. So in that case, you would want to select do not report. But in this case, we do want to report the termination up to Rotary. So we'll go ahead and leave that selected and we'll click Terminate Member. And as you can see, we're back to the active member list. That member is no longer listed. And if we go on the left here, we'll click Inactive Member List. And we'll just filter by last name. So I'll just click S since the last name was Smith. And we can see here he is, Rick Smith. So he is now terminated. And this leads us into our next section that we are going to talk about, which is RI integration related, and it is the member updates archive. So if we click the RI integration tab on the light blue menu bar near the top, and then click the members update archive link on the menu bar directly below, it'll open up the page, which lists out all of the integration requests that we have between this date range. So if there are any integration requests specifically for members, so for things like adding a new member, terminating a member, a club executive change, which we will take a look at a little later, even the email change, all of that will be listed here. And of course, if there are any issues with the synchronization request, you'll see them here as well. So for example, down here, we tried to change Cindy Roberts' email, and it failed due to a duplicate email found on Rotary International. So it is important to note that Rotary does require emails to be unique. So email addresses cannot be shared. So they do have to be unique for the member. So do keep that in mind. If we do want to see more information about this particular request, we can click the details link under actions, and we can see that the old email address is here, and then the email address that we tried to update is this one here. And this is actually the email address that is already used in Rotary International. And again, this is just test data. So we'll go ahead and close that. And we will take a look at this mark as resolved shortly here. But I know I did mention earlier with the notification contact that if there are any issues, that contact will be emailed. So that does go out and they do show up here. And when those issues do happen, we actually have a tool called the Compare and Synchronize tool that will allow you to review the issue and try to resolve that issue. So we're going to take a look at that next. So on the light blue menu bar near the top, we're going to click RI integration. And then on the menu bar directly below, we're going to click Compare and Synchronize. And this page will list out all of your members and it'll have different listings. So the first listing that we see here is the members in sync. So ideally, you want all of your members listed in this members in sync list. And what this members in sync means is that the Rotary ID, the first name and the last name, match in both Club Runner and Rotary International. So it's definitely ideal. It's something that you want to ensure is that all of your members are listed under members in sync. But on this page, there are, like I said, other listings. So if we scroll down a little bit, we'll see that we do have some issues and we're going to work through them and resolve them together. So we have the member name mismatches. We have member type mismatches, and we also have a list for members missing in Rotary and then members missing in Club Runner. So we're going to scroll up here and we're going to just work through each of these. So first issue that we have here, is a member name mismatch. So in this case, we can see that the name in Club Runner is Rob Smith, but at Rotary, they have Robert Smith. So we can resolve this by going over on the right under Actions and clicking the Compare link. And what this compare page will allow you to do is it'll actually allow you to compare the specific member data that Club Runner has with the member data that Rotary International has, and we can find out where the discrepancy is. So in this case, because they were listed as a member name mismatch, we can see that in Club Runner, the name first name is Rob, and at Rotary International, the first name is Robert. And you'll see in between is an arrow right now that's orange and pointing to the right. Now this arrow indicates the flow of data, so the direction of the data. So in this case, because it's pointing to the right, what this is saying is that it's going to take the information on the left, which is from Club Runner. So it's going to take Rob, and it's going to push it up to Rotary International, which is on the right, and going to replace Robert. So in this case, if we left it as it is, it's going to take the first name from Club Runner and update Rotary International. In this case, that's not what we want. We actually want Robert, since that's the correct first name. Rob is just a nickname. So we want Robert to be the name in Club Runner. And what we can do is we can actually click on this arrow, and you'll notice it'll change direction. So it's going to turn blue and it's going to point to the left. And that says the opposite of what the orange arrows indicated. So in this case, it's going to take the information from the right, which is Rotary International. So it's going to take the first name Robert, and it's going to update the first name in Club Runner, which is on the left. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. And if we scroll down, it looks like everything else is correct in both Club Runner and Rotary International. Well, at least they match. So that's indicated by that equal sign. So if we scroll down, we'll make sure that the first name field is checked. That means we want to synchronize it. And we'll double check, make sure that the arrow is pointing in the correct direction. So we're going to update Rob in Club Runner with Robert. So that's good. And we're going to scroll down and we're going to click the Synchronize selected fields. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And this is just going to give you a warning that we're going to override the member's first name. And it's going to actually ask us if we want to replace or set the nickname to what we had in Club Runner, which was Rob. So we're going to click OK, and we'll see how that works. And then just ask for confirmation. So we'll go ahead and click OK there. And what this is now doing is it's pulling the information from Rotary International. See, and as we can see, it's refreshed. So it's pulled the first name from Rotary International and updated it in Club Runner. And you can see that with the first name there and the equal sign. So those are now matching in both systems. Let's just take a quick look. Let's go back to compare and synchronize. And if we go to Robert's member profile real quick here, we'll also notice that the first name is now set correctly at Robert, but on top of that, we also set the nickname to Rob. So in Club Runner, the member will be still, the system in Club Runner will recognize the nickname and use that in most areas. But in terms of synchronization, the first name is Robert, which is correct. So let's go back to the compare and synchronize. And now we only have one member name mismatch left. So I showed you how to resolve that issue using the compare. Now I'm just going to quickly show you how to do it through the member profile. So in this case, Club Runner has Ed as the first name, again, which is a nickname. And at Rotary, it's just Edward. So I'm going to go ahead and click the name in Club Runner, which is going to open up the member profile. And I'm going to click Edit on the member profile here. And we're going to take this first name, which is really the nickname, and we're going to move it down to nickname. And then we're going to change the first name to Edward, which is the correct name. And I'm just going to go ahead and click Save. And like I said earlier, when we make changes to this member detail section, it will try to synchronize that up to Rotary International. So we did generate that request. Usually it does take a couple minutes, but let's go back to the compare and synchronize page. And let's just scroll down and see if we have, okay, so now you'll see that the member name mismatch list is gone. And if we search for the Edward record, they are now under members in sync. So we fixed the issue with the name, and they are now listed correctly in members in sync. So we'll go ahead and close that. So if we scroll down a little bit further here, we have member type mismatches. So we can take a look here, and we see that we have Rick Smith, which is actually the record that we tried to terminate earlier. I'm not sure why it failed here. But as you can see here, the Club Runner member type is X member, so it's terminated. But at Rotary, it's still listed, Rick is still listed as a member. And if we look at Donald Sutherland, the record is active in Club Runner, but terminated at Rotary International. So how you resolve this issue depends on which information is correct. So for example, Rick Smith here is the member that we tried to terminate. So we'd expect them to be terminated, which means that in this case, the Club Runner member type X member is correct, and the RI member type member is incorrect. So what we can do in this case is we can actually, we'll either go in through my Rotary account and terminate the member directly through Rotary International, or you can send an email to the Rotary data team, which is data@rotary.org. Let them know that the member should be terminated with all of their information, including full name, the Rotary ID, and then the termination date, and they'll be able to update that on their end as well. In this case, for Donald, the correct member type is terminated, which we see here is under RI member type. So in this case, Rotary has the correct member type, but Club Runner does not. And in order to fix that, we have to terminate Donald in Club Runner. So what we can do is click Edit Profile on the right here under Actions. And we can click the Rotary tab on the member profile. And then on the right, we have membership type, and we can see it's active. So we can go ahead and just click the Change Status link, which is right next to it. And we're going to go ahead and click Terminate Membership. We're going to give the reason. And let's just say that one. And at the bottom here, so this is actually a good example of when we might want to opt out of reporting this termination to RI. So in this case, we know that Rotary International already has this member listed as terminated. We don't need to synchronize this termination up to Rotary International because of that reason. So we're just going to go ahead and click Do Not Report this termination to Rotary International, which means we just want to terminate them in Club Runner. And I'm going to go ahead and click Terminate Member. Perfect. That takes us back to the active member list. So let's go back to that compare and synchronize page. And if we scroll down, we see that member type mismatches now only has Rick Smith. So the other issue that we had, member type issue, has now been resolved. The member is now terminated in both Club Runner and Rotary International. And if we keep scrolling down to the bottom of the page here, we have the last two sections. So we have members missing in RI, and we have members missing in Club Runner. And if you'll notice, whenever you're looking at these two lists, I always like to compare them first, because you'll notice that Barrett Wallace is listed in members missing in RI, and Barrett is also listed in members missing in Club Runner. So what that means is there's a record for Barrett on both Club Runner and Rotary International, but the record in Club Runner does not have the correct Rotary ID. And since the system uses that Rotary ID to link the two records, without that ID, it isn't able to link it. So it's saying, one of them is missing at RI and one of them is missing at Club Runner. So in order to fix that, we don't want to select this add member to RI or add member to Club Runner, because we already know that there's a record in RI and there's a record in Club Runner. We just need to make that connection there. So in order to do that, we'll just grab the ID that is listed for the member under members missing in Club Runner. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy that. And then under members missing in RI, we're going to click Barrett's name to open up the member profile. And we're going to go ahead and click on the Rotary tab. And on the very right-hand side, we're going to click the blue edit button. And here you'll see we have a text box for the Rotary member number. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. So I just copied it from that compare and synchronize page. And I'm going to go ahead and click save. So now that we can see the Rotary member number has been updated, if we go back to RI integration and then click compare and synchronize, we search for Wallace here, we now see that Barrett is listed under members in sync. And if we scroll down, we no longer have two members missing in RI and two members missing in Club Runner. So that issue has been resolved. For the remaining issues, we have Josephine Crisp here, who is active in Club Runner, but is not added to Rotary International. In this case, we can confirm that the member doesn't have a record at Rotary International. It's not listed here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click Add Member to RI. And what that's going to do is going to tell the system to try to synchronize this member up to Rotary International. So we can go ahead and click that link. It's going to ask you to confirm. Go ahead and click OK. Once that is clicked and confirmed, you'll see there's a message up at the top just confirming that the request has been successfully scheduled. So usually that does take a couple minutes. So we will check back on that shortly. And then the last issue that we have here that we're going to work through is the members missing in Club Runner. So in this case, this member is not listed in Club Runner at all, but is listed as a member at Rotary International. And what we can do in this case is, like I said earlier, because we have that read option, we can pull the information from Rotary International down into Club Runner. And to do that, all we have to do is just click the Add Member to Club Runner link. It's going to ask you to, again, confirm. And this one is immediate, so we don't have to worry about synchronization. This is just pulling the information down to Club Runner. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And that is processing the request. It's just pulling that information from Rotary International and pulling it down into Club Runner. And if I scroll down, now you'll notice that both of those issues have been resolved. So if I go here, so there's the member that we added from Rotary International. You can see that they're now active member in both systems. And you look at Josephine here, same thing. So those two issues have been resolved as well. So those are the different sections. I know there was that one email issue that I did mention. So we're going to quickly go over that as well. So like I mentioned, emails are very special, and they do need to be unique. So let's just quickly go ahead and resolve that issue. So let's go to, what was that member's name? Roberts. Cindy Roberts. So let's go ahead and click on Cindy's name here. And we're going to go ahead and edit the member details. So this was the duplicated email address. So that's not what we want to use, because like I said, the email address has to be unique. So what we're going to do is just replace that with Cindy Roberts. And again, that does have to be unique. So we'll go ahead and just click save. And once that is saved, the system will send that request to synchronize that information up to Rotary International. And a good way to confirm if the change was successful, if we go to RI integration, click compare and synchronize, we can use that compare. So if I look for Cindy here, we can click compare. And we can scroll down and we can see that the system still has not processed that yet. So we're still waiting for that to process. Like I said, usually does take a couple of minutes, but once you come into here and you confirm that there's that equal sign there and it is matching in both systems, what we can do is we can actually mark the issue as resolved. So let me just refresh this and see if it's processed yet. Okay, there you go, perfect. So you can see that the change was synchronized up to Rotary International. So now Rotary has the same email address that we have in Club Runner. So both of them match. So what we can do is that issue that we saw earlier. So if we go to RI integration and then click the club updates, or sorry, the member updates archive, we scroll down and we find the email change for Cindy Roberts. We've already resolved this. So what we can do is we'll click the link and say mark as resolved. It's going to ask for a comment. So we're just going to say updated the email address. And we're going to go ahead and click save. So if you do see any issues, if you get an email about the issues, you can definitely use that compare and synchronize page to work through those issues. And then once that is resolved, the issue is fixed, do make sure that you come back into this archive page and mark the issue as resolved. And that'll tell the Club Runner system that the issue is resolved. It's good to go. We don't have to continue to notify you about that specific issue going forward. Next item we're going to quickly cover is the executive compare and synchronize. So if we go ahead and click that here. So that's again under the RI integration tab on the light blue menu bar near the top, and then click executive compare and synchronize on the menu bar directly below. You'll see that this is actually very similar to the compare page that we took a look at through the compare and synchronize. The only difference is that this is solely based on the executive positions that Rotary tracks. So when adding or setting the club executives, these are the positions that Rotary tracks. So that's club president, club secretary, club treasurer, club foundation chair, the club executive secretary or director, the club membership chair, the club service projects chair, and then the club public image chair. So those are the positions that Rotary tracks, and that means that we can synchronize the information for those positions between Club Runner and Rotary International. So similar to what we saw in the compare page, we do have the arrows that indicate the direction the data will flow. So in this case, in Club Runner, we don't have the president defined, but we do have it defined at Rotary International. So it's Vincent. So we're going to keep this arrow pointing to the left because we want to pull that information down to Club Runner. And in the case of the club treasurer, we have the treasurer defined in Club Runner here, but not at Rotary International. So what we want to do is just click the checkboxes here for the positions that we want to synchronize. Make sure the arrows are facing in the right direction. And we're going to go ahead and click Synchronize Selected Positions. It's going to ask to confirm. Just go ahead and click OK. And you'll see that you get the confirmation that the synchronization has succeeded. And you'll notice that right away, Vincent has been added as the president in Club Runner. So pulling information from Rotary down to Club Runner happens almost instantly. And synchronizing information from Club Runner up to Rotary International, like I said, if you have the read and update, does usually take a couple of minutes. So let's just refresh here and see if it went through. Perfect, there you go. So not even a couple minutes, it's already synchronized. So we can see equal sign all the way down the bottom here, and the information now matches on both sides. So that's great. And last thing we are going to quickly talk about is the integration with the club information. So if we go under RI integration, we have the club updates archive option. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And let's just change this. And very similar to the member updates archive, the club updates archive will list all of the integration requests, but only related to the club changes. So for example, if the club changes their meeting information, like I said, we do synchronize that up to Rotary International, and that request will be listed here. If there are any issues with with any of the integration requests for the club information, similar to what we saw with the email issue before, it will show up here, and it'll have that link to mark it as resolved. So both of the pages are very similar in how they work and what they display. The only difference is the member updates archive only shows the member data changes, and the club updates archive shows the club updates that are processed. And just to show you what information is processed in terms of the club information, if we go to admin and then click on the club info and settings down at the bottom here, we can edit our club information. And if we go down to, for example, contact information, we're going to go ahead and click edit. We see these little symbols here. This indicates, if we scroll down to the bottom, that this information is integrated with Rotary International. So any changes to the mailing address or contact information for the club will synchronize up to Rotary International. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. And if we edit meetings, we have the option to set up the meeting information here. And again, we see that symbol for the meeting schedule and the meeting location. And that does synchronize up to Rotary International as well. So just so you see where you can edit that club information and just confirm which information does synchronize up to Rotary International. So that about covers all of the points in this webinar. I know it was a lot to take in. There was a lot to cover. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pass it over to my co-host, Zach, who will cover some live Q&A questions and answers. So Zach, when you are ready, you can take over and work on the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. It was an awesome presentation, and we will get started on my end. We had a bunch of really great questions from everybody in chat. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a couple of the questions that I've already answered in text form, just to kind of reinforce any of those things in case anybody else had those same questions and didn't, speak up. So one of the questions that got asked, and I apologize because I'm having problems locating the specific request, but one of the individuals viewing the webinar did ask if they could report how we get back to those compare and synchronize screens. So I do want to work on that one first, since that's actually where I am right now. So there are at least two ways to get to the RI compare and synchronize screens. If you were here logged into your club's website, you can see I'm logged in as Vincent. I am a level 30 site administrator, so I have all of my dashboards available to me. I can scroll down on this page, and once I reach this section of blocks, I have the RI integration block, and we have a compare and synchronize big button here, and that will send us over to compare and synchronize. We also have a direct link here. We just like having it in two places. That way it's really easy to hopefully not miss. And scrolling right back up the page, we also have the RI integration, and we can see these same set of links, similar links to what's available below, and then we can hit compare and synchronize. That will get you directly back into the compare and synchronize page. And from here, any of the additional changes that we needed to resolve, like Rick Smith being an ex-member and not an active member, or anything else, comparing individual member profiles and working from there. Gordon asked, Gordon C asked on the RI, when we were looking over the RI integration settings page, why we have allow name, like why is it disabled? And for confirmation for everyone, for all RI integration requests, we typically need to pass the first name, last name, and Rotary ID. Because of this, we always have to pass that name, and we don't allow you to opt out of that setting, but we want to make it really clear that you can't. So you can see that most of the other settings here, birthday, addresses, businesses, phones, all can be opted out of. The only extra thing that I will add here is occasionally we do this question. For example, if the club for a very long time had not allowed birthdays for some reason, and you decided to now you want to allow birthdays again to flow up based on this meeting, you guys heard us talking about it, you want to give us those same options. So as soon as you hit allow birthday and update privacy, the only thing that has actually changed is that new integration events, when they fire, will be allowed to send the birthday data up to Rotary International. And if at some point in the future someone updates their birthday, it will also update that data at Rotary International. But any of the information already entered into the club's database will not be sent. But if you know there are, let's just say you have 2 or 3 members, you can definitely go right back to the compare and synchronize page and then use that individual compare to push that data up to Rotary International. All right. Oh, just for confirmation, it was Gordon who had asked about how you get back into the compare and synchronize page. David P asked a great question about terminations when Sean was talking about the member transfer screens. So for full confirmation, when you as a club are transferring a new member into your club, you can use that transfer member option. What that will do is allow you to import and pull the member's information in and add them directly to the club records. So looking at that transfer member screen again, just so you guys can see it. Again, this lets you look for members who you are trying to locate, either be their Rotary ID, if you have that, their email address, which is absolutely unique in the Rotary International database, and the name and country search. So this will let you find a member or confirm that a member is a Rotarian before adding them into your roles. And if for any reason a member is leaving your club for a transfer, you actually are just terminating the member. And then once they're terminated, after the day you terminate them, they are now free to join another club in most circumstances. In any event, if you guys have a situation where you're trying to transfer a member and the old club hasn't released them yet, in those circumstances, you can actually reach out to the Rotary data corrections team. A club officer needs to do this, but you'll send them, the name of the member, their Rotary ID, and that you're trying to transfer them, and let them know that their former club hasn't released them yet. And the Rotary International data corrections and club and district support team will work with your club and the other club to see if that member is eligible to be released. And they have some policies and procedures, but either way, they'll either let you know that yes, the member can join, or no, the member can't join based on whatever criteria they have to help out with that. But that is typically how you do get those resolved. So if you're ever having a problem transferring a member in, the club and district support team at Rotary International will be more than happy to help you guys out with that. Ginger M asked, can more than one club member be selected as the RI notification contact? So that's a little bit of a loaded question, only because I know some secret things about how Club Runner works. Generally speaking, no. You can only set it to an individual role: president, secretary, treasurer, membership, foundation chair, executive secretary, or one of the members of your club. Now, as a bonus option, you can actually set it to any of your other user records. And your other user record, you could set this is, we could go into the membership list. We can create that other user record. And the really nice thing is other users aren't integrated with Rotary International. They're basically members just local to the club, and they can be staff or anything else, but you can set up a member here. And if you have an email address that is either shared between members of the club, like for official club business, like integration notifications, you could set up a member with that email address in the other users list and set that person as the contact notification. The same thing is true, like if you don't have a shared account, you might have like a forwarding email address that will forward it on to multiple members. That would also be a really good choice. All right, I got that one. Let's see. I have this one just came up now, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it. This is from Craig W. I'll go ahead and answer this right now. All of these training sessions, they will be available at a later date. All of the training sessions eventually will pop up on clubrunnersupport.com, which is our primary support website, and the Club Runner community will usually receive a list of all of the webinars after they are done. So keep checking back, and I definitely know we'll be letting everybody know once we have those, all of those webinars in place. But stay tuned to clubrunnersupport.com. Actually, just as another thing, on your welcome dashboards, once our training sessions are over and all of the webinars have been posted, I am absolutely positive that this What's New box will have a link to those. So keep an eye on your dashboards and your emails for once we're done with all of that. So one of our attendees, this is just an anonymous attendee, it came in as anonymous questions. There were times it was said that you didn't need to integrate a change with Rotary International or vice versa. So what if you do, and will there be issues? So typically the reason why we mention not sending those notices to Rotary is just so you guys don't get your own conflicts. So as a very specific example here, we have this name update failed. This wouldn't normally be a change that you couldn't send to Rotary International, but basically what's going to happen is we're going to attempt to perform that update again. So, for example, let's say you're terminating a member a second time or re-adding a new member for a second time. If you try to terminate a member who's already terminated, the integration archive is going to basically tell you this member has already been terminated before. Go double check Rotary and mark this as resolved. And the same thing for adding a new member. If you tried to add a member that had already existed in the club, in some cases we might complete that as it's already done, but in other cases we might not be able to re-add them for various reasons. Basically, at the end of the day, you will receive an error in your email and you'll need to mark it resolved to stop getting notifications of that. So it's mostly just avoiding your own inconvenience, and so you don't have to do your own follow-up on stuff like that. So there's really no catastrophic thing that will happen in most cases for notifying Rotary. And if something really bad does happen or you don't know how to deal with it, our team is always here to help with all of those things. All right, and I have just one more question here from Gordon C again, though I don't know if it's specific to our webinar, but Gordon mentioned that when he was adding a new member the other day, he was not able to indicate who their sponsor was. That does seem a little odd, and only because you should always be able to add a member's sponsor to their profile after the fact. But when adding a new member to the club, you should also be able to add their sponsor. So on our page here, the sponsor option is the second option here on the big drop down on the big add member page. So for our sponsor option, you can select any active member of the club. And the reason why this is currently limited to active members of the club is for the purposes of integration. We can only actually integrate a sponsor who is also a member of the club and was active at the time the member was joined. So if there is someone who is responsible outside of that, you can still update their profile after the fact, but you won't be able to do it with the integration event. So when you are setting the sponsor, it is part of the add new member page, and it is right there at the top underneath the membership type because it is part of the integrated data that will be sent directly to Rotary. All right, I'm just going to check through and see if there were any other questions that would be good to repeat for everybody. I think I got all of the really big ones, though. I believe that is it. So I just want to thank everybody for showing up today and for attending our webinar and coming and doing everything. We will be having, there will be continued webinars for the rest of the month. So for any reason you're having, oh, that was really weird. Sorry, guys. I'm just having a little problem on my computer. There we go. So if we, there are other webinars and stuff coming up over the next couple weeks here through the Club Runner, through our club website. So if you guys haven't taken a time, please head over to clubrunner.com/training to see all the upcoming webinars that are still available. Take some time to join our online community at clubrunnercommunity.com. But I am going to hand it back over to Sean to close us out here.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Zach, for covering the Q&A. And once again, thank you everyone for joining and asking all those great questions. Just before I let you go, I do want to mention that once we wrap up this webinar, you will be sent a quick survey, just a few questions. So if you do have any feedback, please do fill out that survey. It'll help us to improve going forward. But once again, thank you very much, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed today's webinar and have a great day.